Mia Hayes returned to Chicago late in the evening, dragging her suitcase up the steps of her small townhouse in Lincoln Park. She was still in her navy blazer from the work trip, mumbling, "Just a hot shower, that's all I need tonight." But the moment she walked inside, something felt wrong. There was no hum from the fridge, no familiar click from the thermostat, only a hollow echo as the door shut behind her. "Hello," she whispered, even though she lived alone. Then her breath caught. The living room was empty, her couch, her TV, her lamp, everything gone. She stepped deeper into the house, her heels tapping on the bare floor. The kitchen was stripped too, with an outline on the tiles where her fridge once stood. At first, her mind raced to burglary, but then she saw a single sheet of paper on the counter. Torn from her own notepad, written in handwriting she knew too well. "You can always make more money. We need it more than you." Mia stared at the words, her chest tight. "Anna." "Tom, what did you do?" she whispered. Instead of crying or screaming, she let out a sharp laugh of disbelief. Her hands shook as she unlocked her phone and opened her security app. "If this is what I think it is," she muttered. Within seconds the footage loaded. Clear as daylight, Anna and Tom backed a rented truck into her driveway, laughing as they carried out her TV, her sofa, her appliances, even the bar cart she'd proudly built. At one point Anna stepped close to the camera and tilted it aside like she believed that tiny angle would erase the evidence. "You really thought that would work?" Mia whispered. She scrolled again and saw Anna placing the note on the counter. Mia switched apps and opened her banking dashboard. With a hard exhale she muttered, "Not anymore." She canceled every automatic transfer she'd been sending them for years. The grocery support, the emergency money, the extra $100 whenever they hinted life was hard, gone with a few taps. Then Mia opened her contacts and clicked on Clara, her old college friend who was now an attorney downtown. She attached the security clips, added a photo of the note and typed, "I think it's time I stopped paying." She paused only a moment before hitting send, feeling guilt twist in her stomach. Clara called within minutes and told Mia to meet her at her office right away. Mia arrived still rolling her suitcase behind her, unable to face going back to her empty home. Clara watched the security clips twice before saying quietly, "Mia, this isn't family conflict. This is burglary." The words made Mia swallow hard. Clara drafted a formal demand letter right there, listing every item taken, every receipt, every screenshot. "They have 24 hours to return everything or we file charges," Clara said. Mia nodded slowly and whispered, "Then let's start doing this the right way." The following morning Mia sat at her dining table, or what used to be her dining table, staring at the empty space while waiting for the deadline to pass. 24 hours came and went with no truck returning her belongings and no apology from Anna or Tom. Instead her phone buzzed with a message from Anna saying, "You're being dramatic. We'll pay you back when we can. Don't drag strangers into family matters." Moments later Tom added, "You're not going to the cops. Stop bluffing." Mia whispered to herself, "You really think I won't?" and grabbed Clara's folder from the counter. At the police station, Mia handed the thumb drive with her security footage to the officer at the front desk. At first he looked bored, but when her sister appeared on the screen carrying a TV, his expression sharpened. He replayed the part where Tom forced the back door open and shook his head. "Ma'am, this is clear forced entry," he said. "And the note? They left that intentionally?" Mia nodded slowly. "Yes. She wrote it like a joke." The officer didn't laugh. He took her statement, filed the evidence, and told her someone would be visiting Anna and Tom shortly. By late afternoon, Mia received a text from a neighbor in the suburbs. It was a photo of a police car parked in front of Anna and Tom's house. Both of them stood on the lawn while officers cuffed their hands behind their backs. The message underneath said, "Is everything okay?" Mia stared at the picture for a long time, whispering, "You did this to yourselves." That evening, a violent knock shook her front door. She checked her camera and there they were, still in the clothes they'd been arrested in, both shaking with panic. Mia slid the chain across the door before opening it. "Mia, please," Anna cried, reaching toward the crack in the doorway. "Tell them this was a misunderstanding. We'll bring everything back. We'll fix the lock. Just don't do this to us." Tom jumped in angrily. "You're ruining our lives over a couch and a TV. You make more money than we'll ever see. You could replace everything tomorrow." Mia stared at them with a calm she didn't expect. You had 24 hours to act like family, she said softly. But you acted like thieves. This is the result. Tom cursed under his breath, but Mia gently closed the door. When court day arrived, Mia walked into the wood-paneled courtroom with Clara beside her, steady and composed. Anna and Tom entered wearing borrowed suits, looking smaller than she had ever seen them. The judge reviewed the security footage, pausing on Tom breaking the lock and Anna tilting the camera. Then he held up the note and read it slowly for the room to hear. Their lawyer tried to argue it was all a misunderstanding, but the judge shook his head. Borrowing never involves forced entry, he said. When the verdict came, guilty of theft and property damage, Mia exhaled quietly, relieved. After the verdict, the judge ordered Anna and Tom to return every item in good condition or repay the full replacement value. He added fines and 2 years of probation. Mia didn't smile. She didn't gloat. She simply nodded, feeling the weight inside her chest settle. Clara touched her arm gently. You did the right thing, she whispered. Outside the courtroom, Anna tried to rush toward her, but an officer stepped between them. Mia, please. We can fix this. Anna cried. Mia shook her head slowly. Fixing starts with honesty, Anna. And you haven't chosen that in a long time. A week later, Mia sat in Clara's quiet office, signing documents she never imagined drafting at 38. Clara slid a new will across the polished desk. Your old plan left everything to Anna by default, she explained. I think it's time you protect yourself differently. Mia nodded, gripping the pen. I wanted to help kids like me, kids who lost their parents to drunk drivers. Clara smiled softly. Then we'll set up a trust in your name. As Mia signed, she felt a final door closing, one her sister had always assumed would stay open no matter the harm. The news traveled fast. Families like theirs were small-town networks disguised as bloodlines. Within days, Mia received another furious pounding on her door. She didn't open it this time. She simply watched through the camera feed. Anna's voice cracked as she shouted, Mia, are you seriously cutting us out after everything we survived together? Tom hovered behind her, eyes dark and impatient. Mia pressed the microphone button. You stepped out the day you broke into my house, she said firmly. I'm only acknowledging it now. Anna screamed, who else would you leave it to? Mia answered, people who need it. Tom moved closer to the camera, jaw clenched. We're drowning, Mia. Between fines, probation and mortgage payments, we're hanging on by a thread. You could fix everything with one check. Mia felt the familiar tug of guilt, but this time she didn't bend. I've already tried to save you, she said quietly. You always jump back into the water and expect me to follow. Anna burst into tears, accusing Mia of being selfish, cold, ungrateful. But Mia stayed silent. If you don't leave, she said evenly, I'll ask about a restraining order. After a long pause, they finally walked away. Life grew strangely quiet after that. Her phone, once a constant alarm bell for her sister's emergencies, rested motionless on the counter most nights. The silence felt heavy but peaceful. To fill the empty hours, Mia booked a security company to upgrade her entire home. New locks, door sensors, cameras covering every corner. She checked the app obsessively at first, half expecting Anna or Tom to return. But the only things she saw were delivery drivers, neighbors walking dogs, and once a raccoon flipping her trash can lid. Maybe peace looks boring, she whispered to herself one night. Because of the restitution order, her furniture began returning piece by piece. First came the large items. The TV, the sofa, the dining table, delivered under supervision. Then smaller boxes arrived with blankets, kitchen tools, and even her bar cart. Some things were scratched, others had dents that hadn't existed before. But they were hers again. One Saturday, Mia spent the entire day placing items back where they belonged. When she leaned back on her leather sectional that evening, she sighed. This is mine, she whispered. Not ours. Not borrowed. Mine. It was the first time in years she believed it. With no more late-night crises to manage, Mia felt a strange emptiness in her routine. She would come home, drop her keys on the counter and wait, almost expecting her phone to buzz with another request for help. When nothing happened, she stood there, unsure how to just live. Eventually, she forced herself into new habits. She joined a yoga class where nobody knew her family story. She struggled through poses while the instructor laughed gently. Don't worry, he said. Falling is part of learning. For once, Mia wasn't the responsible sister. She was simply a woman trying to breathe again. On impulse, Mia booked a short group trip to the Florida Keys. She nearly canceled 3 times out of old instinct, fear that Anna or Tom might need her. Then she remembered the boundaries she had set. On the trip, she turned her phone to airplane mode for long stretches, floated in warm water and ate fresh seafood while strangers talked about their lives. One evening on a quiet pier, Mia said softly to herself, "This is the first time I'm on vacation for me." The ocean breeze felt like permission she hadn't known she needed. Returning to Chicago, Mia felt lighter. She updated her dating profile for the first time in years. Not because she needed someone, but because she finally had the emotional space to meet someone without carrying her sister's chaos. She went on a few awkward dates, then a surprisingly nice one with a man named Daniel. Over iced coffee he asked, "What's your family like?" Mia paused, then answered honestly, "Complicated. But I'm learning to choose peace." Daniel nodded kindly. "Everyone deserves that." It was the first time she spoke about Anna and Tom without minimizing what really happened. News about Anna and Tom reached her slowly, whispered through relatives who couldn't resist carrying updates. They had sold their second car. They had moved into a smaller rental farther from the city. Tom had taken exhausting warehouse shifts. Anna kept failing background checks. None of this made Mia smile. She didn't celebrate their hardships. Instead, she felt a steady clarity. "These are their consequences," she told herself. "Not my punishments." For years she had thrown money into a hole they kept digging. Now for the first time they were standing in the hole alone. Not everyone in the family agreed with Mia's choices. One evening her Aunt Linda called, voice sharp with judgment. "Mia, they've lost so much already. Can't you help them get back on their feet?" Mia closed her eyes and answered calmly, "Aunt Linda, helping isn't the same as rescuing. I did that for years." Her aunt huffed. "But they're family." Mia replied softly, "Family doesn't erase consequences." After the call ended, Mia sat quietly on her couch thinking, they still see me as the solution, not as a person. It was the first time she truly felt separate from them. Facebook messages followed soon after. A cousin wrote, "Mia, they're struggling. You have more than enough. Why not forgive and move on?" Mia typed a slow response. "Forgiveness and access are 2 different things. I forgive them, but they don't get the keys to my life anymore." The cousin sent back an unhappy emoji, but Mia didn't feel shaken this time. Instead she whispered, "I am finally choosing myself." She set her phone aside and turned on the TV. For the first time in months, she watched a movie without expecting trouble to interrupt her peace. One Saturday morning, Mia stepped outside to water her small backyard plants. A neighbor, Mrs. Carter, waved from across the fence. "Haven't seen your sister around in a while," she said curiously. Mia smiled politely. "We're giving each other space." Mrs. Carter nodded as if she understood everything. "Sometimes space is what keeps people sane, dear." Mia laughed softly. "You might be right." As she trimmed a leaf, she realized how calm her hands felt. There were no sudden phone calls demanding money, no guilt-soaked messages. Just sunlight, a watering can, and a moment that belonged only to her. Weeks passed, and Mia began building a life she had never allowed herself to imagine. She tried cooking new recipes after work, even burning a few and laughing at her own mistakes. She started jogging around the neighborhood in early mornings, loving the crisp air on her face. One day during a run she whispered, "I didn't know freedom could feel like this." She wasn't escaping anyone. She wasn't bracing for another emergency. She was simply living. And every step reminded her how tightly she had once tied her life to saving people who didn't want to save themselves. Still, there were moments when memories tugged at her heart. She remembered being 18, lost and scared, and how Anna had opened her tiny apartment door with a soft, "Come in, Mia. You're safe here." That version of Anna felt like a ghost now. Sometimes Mia wondered, where did she go? When did she change? But then she remembered the note, the laughter in the security footage, the entitlement in Tom's voice. People grow, she thought, but not always in the same direction. She let the memory settle, not with bitterness, but with acceptance that love had limits too. One afternoon, Daniel invited Mia to a small cafe near Lake Michigan. They sat near the window as waves rolled in the distance. "You seem lighter," he said with a warm smile. Mia stirred her tea. I'm learning to live without fear. Fear that someone will need me the second I rest. Daniel nodded thoughtfully. That kind of fear is heavy. Letting go doesn't mean you don't care. Mia looked at him softly. I know. It means I finally care about myself too. For the first time she felt ready to let someone see her without her old burdens. A few days later, Mia received a letter from the restitution office confirming that Anna and Tom had completed one final payment. The debt between them, financially at least, was officially closed. She held the letter for a long moment before whispering, "Then this chapter ends here." She didn't frame it as victory or revenge. It simply meant she no longer owed them anything and they no longer had the power to take from her. She folded the letter neatly and placed it in a drawer, letting the drawer close with a soft, final click. Later that night, Mia lit a small candle on her coffee table and sat quietly in front of it. She wasn't grieving her sister. She was grieving the version of herself who didn't know how to say no. "I forgive you," she whispered, not to Anna, not to Tom, but to herself. "You did your best with what you knew. Now you know better." The flame flickered gently as if agreeing. Mia leaned back, letting the warmth settle in her chest. For the first time she didn't feel responsible for fixing anyone's life but her own. The next day while grocery shopping, Mia spotted a woman around Anna's age struggling to pay for her items. For a moment instinct kicked in, she almost reached into her purse to help. But then she paused. She smiled kindly at the woman and said, "I hope things get easier for you," before walking away. As she pushed her cart down the aisle, she realized she didn't feel guilty for not saving a stranger. She felt strong. She whispered to herself, "Compassion without sacrifice. That's what balance looks like." That evening, Mia sat on her back porch watching the sun dip behind the rooftops. She took a slow breath and let it out peacefully. "So this is what trust in myself feels like," she murmured. Her phone stayed quiet beside her, no emergencies, no demands, no guilt disguised as love. Just silence, and for once she welcomed it. She remembered the officer's words, Clara's determination, and her own courage at the doorway. Everything had led her here. And as the night settled softly around her, Mia finally believed she deserved a life that didn't hurt. A few weeks later, Mia received an unexpected voicemail from her Uncle Robert. His voice held a nervous tremor. "Mia, listen. Anna told the family her side of things. People are talking. I just want to hear it from you." Mia called him back and explained calmly, step by step, what had happened. No anger, no dramatics, just truth. After a long silence, he whispered, "They had no right to do that to you." Mia exhaled softly, surprised by the comfort in his words. "Thank you," she said. For the first time, a relative finally understood her decision. Over the next few days, more relatives reached out, not to shame her but to ask questions. Mia answered each one honestly. "I didn't act out of revenge," she told her cousin Michael over the phone. "I acted out of protection." He sighed and said, "We all knew Tom was trouble, but none of us realized how far it had gone." Mia nodded even though he couldn't see her. "I didn't want it to end this way," she murmured. Michael replied, "Sometimes endings choose us." When the call ended, Mia felt lighter, as if the weight of judgment had finally shifted. One morning, Mia found a letter in her mailbox with Anna's handwriting on the envelope. She hesitated before opening it, her fingers trembling slightly. Inside was a short note. "I don't expect forgiveness. But I wanted you to know I'm sorry for what we did. I'm trying to fix my life. I hope one day you'll talk to me again." Mia read it twice, her throat tightening. She didn't feel anger. She didn't feel relief. She simply whispered, "I hope you fix your life too, Anna." She folded the note carefully, unsure whether to keep it or throw it away. Later that afternoon, Mia shared the letter with Clara over coffee. Clara listened quietly before saying, "An apology doesn't erase what happened, but it shows she finally understands the consequences." Mia nodded, stirring her cup. "Part of me wants to respond," she admitted. "But I don't know what to say." Clara smiled gently. "You don't have to decide today. Healing doesn't follow a schedule." Mia took a slow breath. "Maybe I'll write her someday. When I'm ready." For now, silence felt safer than reopening wounds that had only just begun to close. Work at the agency grew busy as Mia led a major marketing campaign. Her team noticed the change in her. "You seem calmer lately," one coworker said during a meeting. Mia smiled. I'm learning to keep my peace. She focused on projects with renewed clarity, no longer distracted by financial emergencies that weren't hers. After one successful campaign launch, her boss said, "You've stepped into a stronger version of yourself, Mia. Keep going." She felt proud that her growth wasn't tied to survival or guilt, but to choices she made for her own future. Daniel remained part of her life, though slowly and gently. One evening they walked along the lakefront, watching the lights shimmer on the water. Daniel said, "You know, you're one of the strongest people I've met." Mia laughed softly. "Strength wasn't the goal. I just didn't want to lose myself anymore." Daniel nodded. "You didn't lose yourself. You found yourself." His words warmed her, but she didn't rush into anything. She allowed herself to enjoy the present without fear, without pressure, without carrying anyone else's burdens on her shoulders. Another month passed, and Mia visited the scholarship foundation she had established in her new will. She met with the coordinator, a kind woman named Helen. "Your trust will change so many young lives," Helen said warmly. Mia smiled, imagining her 18-year-old self struggling with loss. "I want kids like me to have options," she replied. "Real options." Helen nodded. "You're turning your pain into purpose." As Mia walked outside afterward, she felt proud, not because she had cut someone out, but because she had chosen to give her legacy to those who truly needed it. That evening, Mia cooked dinner while jazz music played softly in the kitchen. She moved with ease, tasting the sauce, humming along. Her house felt like a home again. Not a battlefield, not a storage place for other people's emergencies, but her own sanctuary. She whispered, "This is the life I built." She didn't forget the past, but she no longer lived inside it. Every repaired lock, every returned piece of furniture, every quiet night reminded her she had rebuilt more than her home. She had rebuilt her sense of safety, her boundaries, her identity. Later that week, Mia stood on her porch watching the evening sky fade into deep purple. She thought about trust, how delicate it was, how easily broken, how rarely repaired. She whispered, "Blood doesn't guarantee trust. Choices do." She didn't hate Anna or Tom. She didn't wish them pain. She wished them clarity, growth, and responsibility. But she also knew that wishing those things didn't mean she needed to be part of their journey. For once, she was choosing distance not from fear but from wisdom. As the cool Chicago breeze brushed her face, Mia stepped inside and locked the door behind her, not out of fear but out of intention. Her home was hers again. Her life was hers again. She had learned that love without boundaries becomes sacrifice, and sacrifice without respect becomes self-destruction. In the quiet of her living room, she whispered, "I choose myself now." And for the first time she truly believed those words. Her story wasn't about revenge. It was about awakening. It was about finally understanding that protecting her peace was not selfish. It was survival. And it was freedom.